Hey guys, Jackson here. Today I wanted to go through the newest addition to the Mech project I've been doing. Um, I've been working on this for the last week or so. If you don't know, the big Mech project I'm doing is trying to combine like microfighters of certain Star Wars characters or small builds of Star Wars characters with a existing mech base, and just using those pieces from those two sets to combine them to make a new mech as just a fun new way to display one of the unique characters we get in all the Star Wars sets. So I've done a couple already. I've found some cool alt builds already from other designers that I've posted, and so this one is one of the first pure ones that I've come up with, sat down, created completely. I have been learning how to use the Bricklink Studios, and so I fully created it in there, published it to Rebrickable. It just got approved in the last day or two uh, as everything checked out. So I figured I'd make this video finally to show you guys what I'm excited about with it, the details and the features that I thought were cool to be able to add given the limitations of the pieces that I had, and everything that I was able to accomplish. So again, one of the things I really like about this project is the creativity it blossoms. I think the restriction of pieces, right? If you just had every piece available to you in all of Lego, you can create some crazy stuff. But to me, sitting down with two little cheap sets, figuring out how to combine them, figuring out how to represent the characters in a way that there's not really a lot of reference photos or framework for, right? Creating these mechs, you get a lot of creative freedom, and trying to highlight little features about them using those pieces to me is really cool. So I used two sets for this. So this is going to be the Death Trooper mech that I created. There's the new set out. Sorry, the set number's written down. 75412 was the Death Trooper Night Trooper battle pack that came out. I think the characters are really cool. I think them and Ahsoka is really cool, and I think they have a unique blend of colors and styling going on that normal troopers don't, right? The whole point is they're very uniform. These Death Troopers, they're all black. They have the gold cracks all in them, the red bandaging all over them. I think that adds a lot of cool color elements that I thought would be fun to try and incorporate. And the mech I chose as the base to do this is not a Star Wars mech. I actually chose a Batman mech. It's Batman mech armor 76270. And so the reason I chose this mech is that A, it's all black still, so I get a lot more black pieces to work with, and it's got a good base. Also, Batman's mech has the gold utility band around it, so it gave me a lot of good gold pieces to work in to try and sparsely put on the mech all around. Um, and to me that was really important because their gold cracks and all their armor that they have filled, I wanted to make sure I represented the gold touches in this mech. And then unbeknownst to me, I didn't really study it too hard before getting that set. I mean, the Batman set is like $12 or whatever I got it for. uh, it has some like red, translucent red pieces on the bottom to act like his jet boots or something like that. But that was a really cool feature to find because these Death Troopers have that red bandaging all over, so I was able to incorporate those in two areas to sort of give the vibe of red highlights on the mech. And so I had enough leftover pieces that I was actually able to build the mech and a what's already a small build in this battle pack, right? This Death Trooper Night Trooper battle pack with their little carrier. People aren't very happy with the carrier. It's super simple. Sort of is just a whatever build, but I was able to recreate it sort of even smaller with the leftover pieces. You actually combining these two, you get a Death Trooper mech, and you still get a little troop transport that, if you want to, can carry 4 people. But I think it still captures enough of it so that's still usable. So you're not really losing anything when you do this alt build. You're really just converting the Batman one to be able to show off these really cool Death Troopers. So let me show you guys what I got going on here, and then I'll work you through the actual studio side of things on the computer and how I designed it, and show you guys the posting page. Yeah, so this is the mech I was able to come up with. It's got gold accents all throughout. It's got a stud shooter on the wrist. It's got the red binding. Sorry, everything's mirrored. Up here on this arm, and then down here on this leg as well, just sort of how they have in the show. It's kind of random depending on the figure, but I was pretty happy with being able to add just that little level of detail. And then I added these back pieces up here that are normally like the hover wings for the original transport, and I just think they worked out really well as, oh man, as sort of like back armor accent pieces with how sort of one of these mechs would work. And we'll get to that here in a sec. And then the alt build I did for the rest of this was you still get a little troop transport. It actually ends up using the Batman wings that sort of came with the mech as these, you know, nice symmetrical adjustable hover wings. So still kind of work there. Stud shooters, you can still get a pilot in there, and 2 troops. Still has the same sort of propulsion system the original one had, and still has some accessory clips for some guns. So really happy with how these 2 turned out. It was a really fun creative process sitting here for a couple days tinkering around. So yeah, let's go through it. This Batman mech was a really cool base because it's got this swivel top, which the Star Wars mechs, I believe, don't have. That's more of a Marvel thing. And so that is a really cool feature. I built the back down of it enough that it can't spin like 360 degrees, but it still gets a decent range of motion. And I kind of like that it stops. It makes it a little more realistic. You don't have everything bending around backwards. I was able to beef up. So I really started with a base of, I went through the Batman instructions and really just built the connection points with these raw joint, I don't know what they are, 45-degree joint pieces, and really just built the base, as basic of a frame as I can get for a mech. And then I pulled the pieces off and sort of separated stuff out by multiples and went through building limb by limb, making sure stuff matched, making sure I had the parts for it, and just sort of building up and up what could work. And so again, I like all these gold pieces. We got like little gold accents down here, these gold tooth pieces up here hanging over by his hands. We have little gold pieces buried in the armor, like sort of cracks in the middle of it, and then obviously a big piece on his chest. And even this, it's not exactly gold, maybe more of like an amber. Amber is probably not the right word. I don't know, like a sand brown waist piece here. I just think the little accents all over really help showcase the fig more. Again, the figure is just sitting down inside of it. But I do think these mechs do a decent enough job with proportioning out the bodies to the size of the minifig head. And so I was really happy with how this thing turned out. It's been really cool to display it next to all my other ones. Still has full hand grips that you can adjust all around. Before I had built the other, before I had built the little transport, I was trying to figure out a way to add in the guns. Like some of these other mechs, let's use this guy for example, has these big guns, but the way that's really mainly possible is because this uses a Luke Skywalker base, which already comes with a gun build. The Batman build obviously came with 2 bat wings, which just the pieces do not add up to making a gun. I had sort of finagled a way to making what sort of looked like a double-barreled shotgun for him, but to make that, I wouldn't have been able to make this second build at all. The pieces would not have worked for it, and so I opted to just include a nice simple stud shooter here on the wrist, sort of Iron Man style, which I think is a fun addition. It's a little more mech to me, right? The wrist launcher gauntlets, and so then his hands are free. So if you have any extra pieces and you want to make his own guns or use the guns that are on other mechs, his hands are still free and capable to do so. Again, like I said, on the back, I just tried to beef up the legs a little bit, beef up the feet by a plate or 2 just to give it some height. These stormtroopers or death troopers really have some good stock to them with their thick armor. I sort of rounded off down here to make it look all smooth. He's got a decent enough back piece, but it's nothing hunking, folding out. And then yeah, all these pieces are bendable. They're just in those ball sockets, but so it can be a little bit of a pain sometimes trying to keep them all in place, but otherwise I was very, very happy with how this guy turned out. And so this is my Death Trooper mech. Now the side build that you're able to do is this guy. I think it still really honors that initial build that comes with the set, just a slightly scaled down version. The way that I was able to finagle, I feel like I've said that word a bunch, like mirroring hinge pieces in order to get these wings to line up even was a bit of a challenge and a bit of an aha moment when it hit. And then yeah, it's just sort of got some simple stud shooters, and then spots for some troops to go. Obviously this is sort of the build you make with the secondary leftover parts, so there's tons of room for improvement if you have extra pieces, but this is all purely based on the pieces from the set, so plenty of wiggle room for wanting to add in and increase the strength and stability of a lot of this. Like this windshield piece is truly only connected by these two studs up here at the top. So plenty of room to increase strength or build stuff up if you had a second set, or wanted to do something fun, but figured I'd give at least a troop transport that was semi-usable, in addition to building the mech. That way you're not really losing the entire build. So yeah, really happy with how it turned out. And then I want to show just again sort of how this all looks in studio. Stuff like that is really cool for me to see as I'm slowly learning how to do all of this. So let's do, should be this. Yeah, all right. So this should be, hopefully you can see this. I know our head's gonna be down in the corner. This is the model I made with the minifigures in it, and then this is the model I made without the minifigures in it, just because you want to export the parts out of these into Bricklink, and I didn't want people who wanted to get the parts list to also have to account for minifigure heads and torsos and stuff like that. So this one I made purely just for taking little render photos, which I'll show here in a second. That's what Bricklink actually uses to post. It's a really cool feature. You just hit render, and it actually like sort of builds this out in a really nice looking photo. But yeah, the mech was by far the most challenging one of these to do on here, just because of all the angles. Like you have to, when you're selecting stuff like this and you need to pivot and adjust the angle. Sorry, my dog. And you need to adjust the angle that stuff is working at. It's just a very finicky point. Purely with the mechs, building every other set that I've done in this isn't the same issue. So was a fun challenge to try and overcome. But yeah, was really happy with how these all turned out. Was definitely a challenge trying to figure out how to make all of the instructions work well and read well, especially with all the weird angles that you build, and then showing where to connect it to. A lot of credit for the guys at Lego who actually do this like professionally and make the really complicated stuff and the instructions that are easy to follow. Yeah, definitely not an easy task, and was a really cool challenge to overcome. So that's that, and then I have, this is what my Rebrickable page looks like. So Death Trooper mech and transport, sort of a dual alt build. I always post the instructions and the little file in here. That helps upload for the parts list, but also that way someone can download it if they want to mess around with it in their own thing. I don't charge for any of this stuff. Why would I? So this is what I'm saying the render photos look like. I think they always turn out really cool, and gives a good example of what you can expect when building this, and just does a good job highlighting some of the little features. I was pretty happy it was even able to add the little guns into the clips to just really show my intent with everything, and how I wanted this build to look. So yeah, I always put a little synopsis in here, and then again, these are the two sets that I used to make it. It's the 75412 Death Trooper and Night Trooper Battle Pack. You can see here, this is that original build. It's obviously a little more beefed up than the one I did, but I feel like I did a decent enough job sort of honoring the origins of that build with my side build. And then the Batman mech here is what I worked with as a base. I guess I now have a Batman minifigure to work with, just to sort of display with my other non-Star Wars stuff. But
yeah, so this was cool to sort of strip down raw. It definitely doesn't look like the mech I have built. Um, so that was a fun thing to not have really a lot of reference photos on and just sort of get creative um, and see what I can do. So yeah, thanks for watching. I really happy I got to share this with you guys. And yeah, check it out if you have these parts or pieces or got that Death Trooper pack and you're not that happy with it, or just want to do something a little fun as a different way to display some of your minifigures. That Batman mech is really cheap. So snagging that up and then having a much cooler way to display these Death Troopers is what I think is a cool, unique shelf piece you can do. So anyways, thanks for watching.